What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 703 of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk Hot Tags of the Week podcast. I am Tony Mango, as always, joined by Robert E. Felice.
Hey.
And Callum Wiggins.
Hello.
And I'm also joined by all of you listening, so thank you for tuning in. And we want to know what you have to say about all these topics that we're about to get into. So drop your thoughts in the comment section below or chat it up on all the different avenues that you can on all the other different platforms that we are on. If you are on Facebook, Twitter, if you are on the page on smarkoutmoment.com, comment sections all over the place, including being on our Discord channels. And there are a couple different channels for a couple different things. You know, we have an AEW section, we have a WWE section, we have a Fanboys Anonymous section over on the Smark Out Moment one, because I don't see the point in having an A Mango Tree one that separates everything or something. You guys are more on Smark Out Moment, so throw that in there if you want to talk about movies, TV shows, or anything like that too. And keep in mind that the Discord stuff also can factor into the live podcasts if we decide to do those things. And, you know, sometimes we do. We've done a couple of them recently. So we will come back around to explaining what that is in a little bit. I kind of like this idea of not plugging everything at the beginning. And, you know, if you are brand new to this podcast, what are the hot tags? Well, it's pretty much a breakdown of what we feel like talking about that we didn't already address on whatever the main event was for this week. So we've done a lot of pay-per-view discussion over a couple different podcasts, and we're going to continue that actually, because we do have to talk about some updates to the AEW Double or Nothing card. We're also going to give our predictions for TNA Under Siege, because we didn't do a separate dedicated one to that because it's TNA and we don't watch. Well, Rob watches, but you know, it's not something that's as dedicated on this channel. We're going to talk about a couple other little bits and pieces here. WrestleMania. We're going to talk about Street Fighter. It's a kind of random ass thing, but you know, it's got something to tie with pro wrestling. So drop your thoughts in the comments below, as I said before. And if you are over there on YouTube, then make sure that you also hit the like button, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and get those email alerts set up for the live post shows coming up later on this weekend that we'll explain as well. So first things first, I am going to just switch to one of these topics that I think is like, you know, we'll kind of bounce around between different topics here and there. And this one, it's the least related to anything else. More and more rumblings this week out of kind of nowhere that NXT Europe is once again being discussed. And I don't know if there's actually any truth to this, if it's just like random rumor mill, spitter spatter or whatever, or if this has something to do with the potential announcement of something big happening around Money in the Bank that I had seen some rumors about, or if this is in any relation to the AAA stuff. And it's just like, well, now that they announced that, now everybody's looking for NXT Asia, NXT India, NXT Europe, etc., etc. Since they didn't announce NXT Mexico, and instead it was just, we've acquired AAA, I'm still holding out hope that NXT Europe is not a thing. I don't want it to happen. I think it's a bad idea. For a lot of different reasons that we've talked about before, but in case you are pretty new to this or you don't remember, I think NXT UK was pretty much a failure in a lot of ways. They got some people to go to the main roster and they got some people to go to NXT, but if you look at the grand history of NXT UK, it's not much. And that was when it was still a novel concept. It was still, maybe we could try to expand into all sorts of other categories here, and we can actually make this like territories outside of that. But out of, I don't know, 50 something people or whatever that had been a part of that brand, when you count the people that were like signed and the ones that were regulars but weren't signed, like a Mila Grace or something, how many people are actually still used? Like 7? You got Gunther, you got Lyra, Rhea, but she wasn't, you know, signed for that. She was brought into the Mae Young Classic, so was Toni Storm. You got Pretty Deadly. And I'm like struggling to figure out who else, because like they released Ora Mensa. He was one of the ones that stuck around. Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate are still around, but they're just barely showing up or jobbing. JD McDonough is, you know, the backup guy for the Judgment Day. And yeah, that's like kind of it. Piper Niven and Alba Fire. Okay, there's two more. Ilya Dragunov. But that's not much.
But you're naming a pretty good handful of people, and two of those, at least, in Rhea and Gunther, are major stars. And I think,
wouldn't that just point to the idea, though, of if you like the person from whatever the scene is in Europe that they're in, to just sign them and put them in the NXT anyway? Like, do you need a whole separate show and like pay-per-views? And
I don't think that was the point of NXT UK. I think the point of NXT UK was to bleed the European indie system and do their own thing there. And I think we would have seen that expand, except for the fact of COVID.
Yeah, I mean, you're putting it in a very kind turn of voice. I'll probably say what the reality is. The reason why NXT UK existed was to kill the UK independent scene. And
I said bleed it out. I think that's fair.
Yeah, well, I'll put the word "kill" in there because that's what they intended to do, and they succeeded. So in which case you can look at it that way and say, oh yeah, it was actually a huge success, NXT UK, because it achieved its goal of absolutely butchering what at the time seemed to be quite a exciting and thriving and vibrant British independent scene. Is now pretty much dead outside of Rev Pro. So yeah, it did its job.
Crazy. Like, for those of you, and this might sound crazy, but there are probably some younger people out there who might not know, like 10 years ago, the UK scene was probably the hottest indie scene around the globe. Like, the UK scene was on fire. And now it's not.
Mm-hmm.
So even that, are there really that many people that they can grab to make a whole show out of? Because the whole NXT Europe thing would be, I would assume, centralized in Europe. It would be like, let's have that performance center over there. Let's have the shows taped over there. Let's have a roster over there. Every once in a while, we'll send, a Finn Balor or whatever to just like pop up and do something. But like, it would have to be a separate thing for the most part. And at that point, is there anybody that's worth having a whole show that you have to do like a weekly hour for? And that many people?
Progress still exists, right? Like, aren't they just gonna, whatever Progress is right now, are they just gonna take some of those people?
I mean, I don't think there's like too much of it would be a far-fetched thing. They just rehire all the people they let go.
Yeah, there's also that.
You're just gonna be part of NXT Europe now.
Would people watch that though?
No, but that's not the point. It's like
hold on, I don't understand what you're doing here.
Well, you got to figure from a business perspective, there needs to be a value to the expense, and the value can't be just to ruin other companies, because then you have to then turn that into something.
Have you ever watched collectors who have like hordes and hordes of every Batman toy that's ever existed, and they don't open them or play with them?
Yeah, they're crazy though, but they don't make money off of that. And this is a business that's like, we're going to talk later about WrestleMania, that they're like fully into, if it makes money, that's the only thing that matters. So they need to see this as some kind of money making scheme if they were to do that.
The value is what we discussed earlier, is like it's a mix of killing the other promotions as a means of, the more that you can cripple the independent and outside wrestling scene, the more you make yourself the only destination for any viewers or prospective talent to go to. The more you can make it so much harder to find work anywhere else or get paid anywhere else, the better it is for you as a brand and you as a catchment area, shall we say. And yeah, you're correct in saying that only like a few people from the former NXT UK have blossomed into big stars for WWE in general, but that's all you kind of need realistically. Are you willing to sacrifice a bit of expense on your, I don't want to like crap on anybody in particular from NXT UK, but the ones that didn't make it through very far, in order to find a Rhea Ripley or a Gunther or somebody along those lines, and to bring them into the system in a more, let's say, convenient way for them. If they're living in the UK or they're living in Europe, they get to be on a show, get to be under your umbrella, but still live there. And then you can find out which ones have the most potential to make it in the States, rather than, leave them on the independent circuit and risk, I don't know, say an AEW coming and snapping them up first.
And
For
I would
WWE,
also,
it's all about control and monopolization.
and I would also argue the point of, look at the case study of just Gunther. Here's a guy who's like, no, I'm not going to the States. And they let him do his thing. And he dominated. And they were eventually able to convince him to go over to the States. And now he's, a major star in WWE proper. And he's probably going to have Goldberg's last match. And like that alone is a hell of a case study.
I guess it would depend on how much they actually do spend on it. And obviously we don't know the numbers for that, but I can't imagine at the very least that they would look at this and go, we're going to get people to tune in and watch this. So it would have to be something that they would be plunking in the money for as a gamble, instead of like, all right, well, we know we're going to get paid for putting this on the air. And like, yeah, like for instance, like I can't imagine Peacock or Netflix being like, can you make a whole nother promotion out of a bunch of no names in Europe and air
Are you
that?
Insane? What did they do the last time? This is what they did. They ran exclusive NXT UK takeovers, yeah. And they were like, oh my god, watch this show. Look at the energy in the crowd. As long as the people show up and make noise, as we've seen from WrestleMania, like as long as they show up and make noise, nobody cares. And I think they can at least get people to show up and make noise.
Well, Netflix would care about the viewers, not the people in the arena.
But you're mentioning like Netflix and like Peacock. Obviously, Peacock wouldn't have an interest in it because Peacock isn't in the UK, or it's not in Europe, right, as far as I'm aware. Like you're targeting that at probably just very specific European like television stations. So, just speaking of someone that's from the UK, you're looking at selling something to Sky or BT or something along those lines. Or, sorry, should I say TNT now? But yeah, you're trying to market it to those people and say, oh, this is a product exclusively for the UK scene. Because let's say, like, a lot of people that work in the independent scene are going to be nobodies to you specifically, Tony, and a lot of the people that just watch Raw, SmackDown, NXT.
Yeah, casuals.
But to people that do watch, but people that do watch the UK independent scene, which again is not going to be a huge audience. But then again, wrestling is a niche audience as it is anyway. I mean, Christ, like you look at the viewing figures for this latest like Netflix episode of Raw. Apparently, it was like under 1 million people from the US side of things watching the latest episode of Raw. Yeah,
that's crazy.
So it's like wrestling is so hyper niche. Like no one understands, especially from outside of things, for how little people, as a general rule, watch professional wrestling. It's so tiny, so unbelievably tiny. Like our genre, as it were, has so much less respect than anime or comic books or anything along those lines. We are what those people laugh at and call freaks. That's what professional wrestling is.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So that is having just a small like section of that, like, and especially in the UK, because the UK is probably, again, don't want to like sound too braggadocious about it, but the UK as a whole is a bigger, more thriving market of wrestling fans than I think the US has. Just as a general rule, we've got a much smaller population, but I'd say we probably have a higher percentage of the population enjoys professional wrestling than the US does. So if you can hit that market, and I've seen like Germany has a pretty strong wrestling scene as well. Not so sure about many other places in Europe as well. I know the UK and Germany have like big wrestling promotions, or like from an independent standpoint, Ireland as well. So yeah, it's just like seeing if you can give something that would attract the audience there. The issue being that you've already done the NXT UK thing, and that flopped, and people might be hesitant about following another WWE branded like Europe or UK product because we've already seen this and you failed at it, so they're gonna have to do a better job of trying to convince people to watch. I don't think it's the biggest reason why they want to put this together. I think the biggest reason is, as I say, monopolization, catchment areas, all that other stuff. But I think at the very least they'll want to do an NXT Europe in the belief that they can do it better than they did NXT UK. They've just got to try and prove it. I'm skeptical that they'll do it because
guaranteed that they'll end up failing.
Yeah, but they'll believe that they can do it, which is all you need, really.
Now, credit
here's
to
another
these.
question.
Good.
Like, do they still have the relationship they did with TNT Sports Studios? Are they just going to go back there? Because they had a performance center there already. I assume it's still there. You know, they had all of that kind of infrastructure there. If they can get, you know, some of the crowd energy that they had for NXT UK at first, I think they'll have something. They'll have a niche, an even more niche product you can latch onto, and I think they might be okay for a couple of years at least.
Now, for the reports that are putting this all out there, it could be completely just bullshit, for all we know. Like, WWE has not announced anything. But then again, AAA came out of nowhere. So it wasn't like that was like, okay, there's a big rumor for the couple weeks leading up to WrestleMania that they're going to announce that they bought AAA or something. So we could just get like out of nowhere, hey, it turns out that this NXT Europe thing is slightly askew from what the reports were, and it actually is that they bought Progress or something. And then that they're planning on using that as like a feeder system. Or it could be we flat out are announcing NXT Europe is going to happen and the first episode's going to be on September whatever the fuck, or you know what I mean? But I know I am past the point for a long time of like, you got Raw, you got SmackDown, you got NXT, you got LFG, you got Evolve. You're going to throw this AAA stuff out there. You know, it's one show right now, but who knows if they're going to add another show for that in the future. And then you really want me to watch an NXT UK again? Like, I'm not going to. And I know from the friends of mine that watch pro wrestling, they can't even stomach SmackDown for 3 hours. And it's like, I'll watch Raw and, you know, maybe that's it. So fewer and fewer and fewer people to watch the shows that matter less and less and less. And yeah, there's going to be more people that would tune into this than main event, but that's not saying much when 8 people tune into main event and 2 of them are in the company or something, you know? I just don't think that this is a good idea as far as like, if they were to try to do NXT UK again, the way that they did, they need to do something different. They either need to not make it a TV show and make it like once a month they do 1 episode, or they need to run like live events more so, kind of like with the WWE ID thing, where it's like, it's not really that, but you could throw those people in Evolve. Like, something needs to be, it can't just be, now we have NXT UK and for 1 hour a week, we're going to run an NXT Europe show. Nobody's going to fucking watch that.
I think as long as they can build a decent roster, and I'm out of touch with the UK scene, so I can't say who I would like to see on board, but I think as long as they have a slightly decent roster and they can get some energy behind it, it'll be a fine show. I might end up watching it if I end up getting tasked to, but like, for example, I haven't watched Evolve, but that's only because Evolve is, you know, head-to-head with Dynamite. Like,
well, to be fair,
there's only so much wrestling you can watch.
that would be the type of thing, though. There's not the time to put this on top of something else without it conflicting with that. And if you haven't watched Evolve, you haven't watched LFG, if it's because it's on the same time as that, then if you were like, oh, I really am interested, you'd be watching it, in 2 hours before SmackDown or something. You know what I mean? And eventually you reach a point where you're like, admittedly, you just don't really care that much about watching Evolve. And I don't blame you. I don't watch it for any reason other than I got to do coverage of it. And if somebody were to opt to do the coverage for me or just pay me to not do it, I'd stop watching that immediately. It's not a fun show to watch for the most part for me. It's a bunch of no names and some people that I'm like, oh, wow, I'd like to see them in NXT. Put them in NXT. I don't want to see them against the no names. And, like LFG is a totally different type of show. But it's like, that's like watching a reality show more than anything else. So it's slightly different. But even that, like the season's over. There's like 7 episodes of the show or something. So I have no interest in watching NXT UK 2.0, where they bring back the failures from the last time. And it's like, aren't you excited about an even older Trent Seven or an even older and proven that we're not going to push Saxon Huxley? And then when it comes to the people that are in the UK scene, it's probably amazing people that I'm just completely unaware of. But I would want them to just sign them and put them on NXT, So I'm hoping this isn't a thing.
I will. This is the last thing I'll say on it. If it's coming from Johnson, it's a thing. We know that, from the past NXT media calls that they no longer do, Johnson had a pretty friendly relationship with Hunter and Sean. So I imagine if it's coming from Johnston, there's probably smoke. You know what I mean?
I mean, ultimately, we're not going to know until they announce something. But seemingly, that might be around Money in the Bank that they might announce something. So keep our eyes peeled.
I thought the Money in the Bank announcement was going to be, hey, guess what New Orleans is getting next year?
Well, that's another big topic. So WrestleMania 42 is not going to be in New Orleans. It's going to be in Las Vegas again. And this was a very quick turnaround of a bunch of stories of out of nowhere, WrestleMania 42 is not in New Orleans anymore. We're shopping it around. Oh my God, everybody's panicking about where is it going to go, because the first thing that I had seen about it was that it was swapped out because of a significant bid, was the term, from somebody else. And I was like, oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me. They're going to put Royal Rumble and WrestleMania at Saudi Arabia next year. And then I was already writing off the idea about being like, God damn it, everything with this world is just kind of like corruption and terrible shit. And, it turns out it's Las Vegas again. And then on top of that, it gets added into there that WWE and Las Vegas are basically planning on UFCing the whole thing the way that we talked about before, and frequently returning with WrestleMania to Las Vegas. And then essentially, if not returning with WrestleMania, returning with another big show. So basically, it seems the breakdown is New Orleans either got outbid and they're fucked, or they had some kind of issues or something and Vegas put in a bid and, whatever it was. Whichever, for chicken and an egg kind of scenario. I don't know which one came first. But Vegas is interested in, and TKO seems to be interested in, having, if not WrestleMania, then it was like Super Bowl, or like, if you could get something huge, like a World Cup thing, or like a, blah, 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 like a big sport event type thing. They want at least one of those every single year. I don't blame them. Makes sense. And the years that they won't have something like the Super Bowl or whatever, they want WrestleMania. So we're basically going to get, Mania's going to come back to Las Vegas once every 2 to 3, maybe at most every 4 years. And, every 4 years, maybe that's not all that bad. every 2 years, god damn it, that's going to be fucking annoying. And I was hoping that there could be maybe like WrestleMania would be in London instead next year, and it would be like do something a little different, something fun, or, you know, to at least not commit to doing the same things over and over and over again. I kind of thought that they were just going default to Florida when they first said the New Orleans thing. I was like, well, if it's not Saudi, then it's just going to be, we have the ties with Florida and we keep doing that over and over. But I'm not interested in the idea of Las Vegas being the home of pro wrestling for WWE. I'm not interested in the Performance Center moving out there. I'm not interested in every year WrestleMania is there. I'm fine with it being like, they have Mania 1 year, they have SummerSlam 1 year, they have Royal Rumble 1 year, and then they have Survivor Series or Money in the Bank or something. And then you kind of like cycle them in and out. That's fine. It's Las Vegas. You expect that to be a big thing. Now, you're going to do something in Florida, they're going to do something in Chicago, they're going to do something in New York. Like, that's pretty fine. But New Orleans, man, you set up a whole bunch of stuff there, and then fumbled or whatever happened there.
I don't think they fumbled. I think so. Here's my theory. Las Vegas is supposedly a ghost town right now, where people aren't traveling to America for reasons.
For obvious reasons, motherfuckers.
And there was like this big picture going around of like the week after Mania, Las Vegas is just a ghost town.
By the way, Nevada, yeah, you voted that way, so you fucking deserve it.
And people are getting laid off at like these hotels because people aren't traveling. And I wonder if they're just like, look, we'll give you 3 times what they were giving you. Just like fucking save us. And they were like, hey, New Orleans, we'll give you a WrestleMania at some point in the next 5 years, and we'll give you Money in the Bank next year. That's my theory. If it really does end up just going back to Las Vegas next year.
I mean, it's as solid of a theory as you can get, because if the significant bid thing is out there for a reason, you kind of would assume Vegas probably swooped in and said, we beg and pleading, can you please bring us back? And then they probably did retroactively tell New Orleans that, like, you gotta wait.
Didn't they do that to Minneapolis? Where it was like, hey, you'll get Mania at some point, but it's not going to be when you thought, because we're going to New Orleans. Was it actually because we're going to New Orleans?
I think it was Vegas.
Well,
actually,
I guess
I don't know, because everything got thrown off, because it was originally the Mania that was the pandemic one was going to be Florida, and then it was going to be Dallas, and then Hollywood.
Yeah, and then it ended up being everything got pushed back.
Go back and, kind of recycle the Florida thing, push everything forward 1 year and all. So I don't remember when they announced Philly for 40, but for them to, I think that they announced Philly for 40 like pretty soon after like Hollywood was done or something. Like, it wasn't like 2 years in advance or something, if I remember correctly. I don't know. Maybe it is. But yeah, we're not businessmen. We don't know what's happening behind the conference tables and stuff. But you got to assume that if this bid thing was the case, that it probably was a matter of Vegas just stepping in and being like, even if we don't have the venue set up, because apparently there's a concert happening at that same time. And then like the venue that they used for WWE World is also booked. So like, we don't have any of the logistics figured out, but can you please come back?
Please save us, because we're losing a shit ton of business because, again, people aren't traveling. But the one thing we haven't talked about yet that's the funniest part of all of this is The Rock. The Rock comes out, one of the only things he did during WrestleMania, the whole road to WrestleMania, comes out to announce WrestleMania in New Orleans. Fuckers, just kidding. Just nope.
At this point, if The Rock says something, just assume it's the opposite, or that it just fizzles out and it means nothing. The guy counts 1, 2, 3, and it's like, I'll see you in 9 months to do nothing. I'm gonna announce WrestleMania. Never mind. Hey, I'm gonna do this big angle, but I don't need to be there for it. What a fucking bust. Well, there goes the WrestleMania in England anytime soon, it seems, Callum. Not that you were necessarily planning on going, but
what a shame. God.
I think there might have been more of a chance that you would be interested if that would be the case, but obviously you're not going to travel to Las Vegas.
Maybe if this was 7 years ago, maybe.
yeah. You have to go quite a while back for me to have had any interest in going. As far as this goes, I mean, it's not hugely surprising in the grand scheme of things. I mean, Las Vegas is the home of the UFC. It's basically it will essentially become WWE's home base and Endeavor and all that stuff. It will be that pretty soon. They will relocate the Performance Center to Las Vegas at some point. And that's just what to expect once it switches hands. It's gone from being a bastion of the East Coast with the Connecticut home and all that stuff under Vince McMahon's ownership, and now it's owned by Endeavor and they're in Las Vegas, so naturally they'll want to gravitate a lot of their stuff over to there. And what better way to do that than to make WrestleMania a more permanent fixture of that city. So yeah, I mean, Rob makes a lot of sense by saying that the likelihood is that they kind of just been begged and pleaded and given a shit ton of money to put on another event there to try and attract people to the city for the week or two that they'll be kind of stationed in the area. And yeah, they're probably give them a lot of money to come back to the city over and over again, but it's probably also just due to the synergy of the parent company and Las Vegas that now WWE is part of that entity, then naturally they'll become part of that overall ecosystem. So yeah, that's it's surprising after they announced it they've changed their mind. I don't know whether they would have to pay some sort of compensation to New Orleans for basically announcing that they would put on the show and then saying, no, actually, we're not going to do that anymore. So I don't know whether the promise of, oh yeah, we'll bring it back in X number of years, because what's them saying, oh, actually, we're not going to bring it back in X number of years, fuck you. That kind of
And there's no comparison between that and Money in the Bank. They can't be like, but you're getting Money in the Bank. I mean, you could pay the same amount. They can't do that.
Now, granted, New Orleans is a state and not a different country, but this is basically what they've been doing for the last 2 years to all these different countries. Hey, listen, London, you're not getting WrestleMania, but you're getting Money in the Bank. France, you're getting Backlash.
By the way, New Orleans isn't a state.
It's very much a city. Yeah,
that is. Whatever.
That's what they gave them in return. They're like, we're going to constitute you as a state. We have somebody in the fucking awful regimes thing. They renamed
Trump that they could do it.
They renamed the Gulf of Mexico. We'll rename New Orleans a state, and all the corruption. Well, we have that meeting with Saudi in the view.
It's like when people forget that Chicago isn't the state, it's the city in Illinois. That's basically what I just did.
Random side note, I always thought that every single city capital should just be blank city. And it used to piss me off so much when it would be like, New York City is the capital of New York or whatever, that it would be like, why not everything? That's like, it should be, though, to me. Like, it should be, Jersey City should be the name of the capital of New Jersey, So the part of me that would be like, yeah, New Orleans would be the capital. That's, but.
It is quite confusing when you get down to New Mexico City, when you've actually got Mexico City being the capital of Mexico.
Yeah.
Then it just feels okay. Now you're just copying someone's homework.
That's the same people that were like Kansas. Okay, now what do we name this one? Arkansas.
But it's pronounced completely differently.
Anyway, states are dumb, and that's why this country's in this fucking mess.
But I think that it may also be part of a larger business strategy to try and convince people, say oh, we're just going to keep going back to Las Vegas unless you start paying more.
Could be. Vegas is going to offer us X amount. You need to at least match that, if not go higher. In fact, you need to go higher.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you push the idea of, well, kind of our base of operations is in Las Vegas, it's a lot easier for us logistically to put on events here. So you're not just going to have to pay slightly more. It's going to be, you've got to take in all the considerations of us, like the travel associated, the logistics of setting up there, the fact that we're not familiar with the area, all that stuff, all the talent that's got to go, all the crew that's got to go. So if they are going to try and convince, say, New Orleans or London or Saudi Arabia in the future, they basically say, well, it costs us, like, we can get a decent thing we got a decent deal with Las Vegas, you're going to have to go above and beyond to get it. And it just depends on how, I guess, desirable WrestleMania is. Like, how powerful is the brand in terms of securing a much higher bid, as it were, or set people up on a bigger bidding war. The fact that they're always going to have to be competing with Las Vegas, because that's always going to be a steady home for these shows. So, yeah, it just depends on how much they think they can convince others to pay for it.
Now, as fans, rather than business people, I think something that gets lost in translation a lot when people talk about stuff, especially when people have like podcasts and everything, everybody wants to act like they are a business strategist and all this. I ultimately don't give a shit what WWE gets out of any kind of a deal. I don't care if it's like, well, this is such a great business decision. You know, I'm a fan. Give me a product that I want to watch, because it's, you know, it matters less to me that you made a lot of money in the thing that I didn't enjoy, rather than I enjoyed the thing and all that. Like, I want them to succeed, to be able to do the things that I want them to do. But like, I don't care if they're like, hey, the crowd would have been better and the set would have been better and the logistics would have led for better matches if we would have been in Minneapolis, but we decided to be in Vegas because we earned a higher gate and the card suffered, but aren't you happy? I'd be like, no, fuck you. But then again, they're not listening to me. They're listening to money, because that's the only thing that anybody listens to. So like, yeah, I don't care that they make more money, but I'm not them.
So. Yeah, I was going to say, like, I have news to you, buddy. Like, you say, like, you don't give a shit about their stuff. Guess what? They don't give a shit about you.
Yep.
So, like,
if anything, they actively prove that over and over again by being like, if it would be easier to give a shit about you and they would gain something out of it, they almost don't want to.
Yeah, exactly. If they thought that you and, I'm not saying like you particularly, but like you and the wrestling fandom of the populace were worth anything, then they would do more stuff to appeal to that audience. But they demonstrate on a, not just a show by show, but a week by week basis that there's only one language they speak, and that is to just do enough to keep the fan base satisfied and content, but never really to push the boat out too far, unless on, like, you know, you need to do it like maybe 3 or 4 times a year to convince people that it's still good. And it's still worth watching. But then beyond that point, you can kind of just like sit in neutral and just stay in first or second gear and just coast for the rest of the year round. Like, you can do something like, you do the one thing like this year so far, it's the John Cena heel turn. You do that one moment and everyone thinks, oh god, this is the greatest thing that I've ever seen. And then you can ride that for the next 3 or 4 months and then when people start to get super dissatisfied, that's when you do something like, I don't know, do like a big world title change on TV or something, and then everyone goes, oh wow, this is crazy. Like, you never know what's going to happen in world wrestling entertainment, and then just move on from that point. We've seen the strategy before. I'd say I'm someone that's like Jaden is over it. Other people like connect to it, and it's like, I don't think that it's a bad approach to take. But it's not one that the fans would care about. But then, as we say, like, the fans, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they think. As the member of the board would say, it doesn't matter what they think. It's all about it's all about what the money says. And yeah, I think that will dictate, as it has done in more and more recent years. That will just dictate where they go for these events moving forward. So yeah. It doesn't matter if the atmosphere is different. It doesn't matter if they're just going to be attracting the same group of fans. I mean, that's probably the most dissatisfying thing about this Las Vegas thing, is that like, especially for night one of this year's WrestleMania. As I say, I didn't watch the whole shows, but I saw bits and pieces. But like the crowd atmosphere for night one in particular was absolutely appalling. Like, it was dreadful. You could basically not hear them until the Charlotte and Tiffany Stratton match came on. Until then, it was, and to be fair, you weren't really giving them much to cheer in the first place. But other than that, it just didn't feel like a great atmosphere, and that's partly just due to the fact that it's an open air stadium, and no open air stadium sounds good on TV when you're watching it. But if you're just going to be bringing the same crowd to these shows over and over again because you're just going to the same place over and over again, then it's going to start having not just fatigue on, but other people worldwide or across the US that want to see these shows or want to pay to go to these shows live, but they're just not getting the opportunity. But then also it'll cause fatigue for the people that are going to the shows because they're like, the more often you come there, the less special it is.
Mm-hmm. It's the same as,
and I will
like,
say there's a handful of people that actually bought their tickets, their plane tickets at least, for New Orleans, thinking, I'm definitely going to Mania next year.
Right.
And
get the tickets early enough that you don't have to worry about the ticket price surging. And then, it's always cheaper to get the tickets in advance. And then now they're like,
baby.
Now they're like, fuck, I got to figure out a reason to go there. And then Vegas is like, how about you go here instead? New Orleans is like, well, we got you. You want to come here, But it's, it's a weird setup where, like, we know at some point they're going to bring that to Saudi Arabia. Like, they've flat out said, like, they will do WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia. So sometime in the next couple of years, we're going to get that unfortunate fucking mess. And we know next year it's going to be Las Vegas, or at least until it changes. Maybe somebody else, maybe Minneapolis pops back up again. And it's just kind of like, hey, remember us? But, like, it's not surprising to me that this is the case of them switching something up like this because it makes more money. And we shouldn't be shocked if in the future there is more of that discussion about moving things over to that coast and doing all the stuff that they had said, nah, we don't have any plans for it. Well, people lie constantly. And nobody has the best interest of anybody except for themselves anymore. And that sucks. So I'm not a fan of the way that a lot of that stuff is going down, but at least when it comes to the crowd and all that stuff, I hope that they figured out the logistics that they did wrong this time and they figure it out better for next time. Not that I say a whole lot of faith in it, but it's a possibility. So we got to really put our hopes out there that, at some point they just go, we're going to do something a little bit interesting other than, repeat the same 4 places over and over again for the next infinity times. That's why even on one of the thumbnails for this, I'm using the WrestleMania logos. I replaced 41 with infinity symbol because it's just like, we're just going to trade back and forth between that and something else. Any other thoughts on the Mania stuff before we move on?
No.
Let's talk about a completely unrelated topic. Street Fighter. So, I'm not familiar with this character, but supposedly, and again, rumor, you gotta take it with a grain of salt, Roman Reigns may be cast in a live-action adaptation film that they're going to be doing for Street Fighter, which they've done one in the past. It's amazing. And amazing in the sense of it's terrible, but it's, it's fantastic. That movie came out 94, I want to say. That's a Jean-Claude Van Damme one and all that. I rewatched it again a couple months ago. It's equally as bad as it was back then. It was hilarious to rewatch. But supposedly Roman Reigns is one of the people that is in discussion to play a character in that, and it would be Akuma. I am not familiar with Akuma. I am, to show my age, I am a Street Fighter 2 before even the 19 versions of Street Fighter 2 came out, where it was like, I remember being like, oh, wow, there's Street Fighter 2 Turbo. That seems pretty cool. And like, what is this Street Fighter 2 Turbo Alpha Mega whatever? I don't even know how many editions that they did. Let me look that up real quick. But so they did Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition, Turbo Hyper Fighting, Super Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Hyper Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD Remix, and Ultra Street Fighter 2 The Final Challengers. Goddamn, why didn't you just make Street Fighter 3? It drives me crazy. But I'm of the era of, I can name you about maybe a dozen characters, basically ones that were in the movie. Once you get past like T-Hawk, I don't really know who is in there. And Akuma seems like he's a pretty big character. He seems like a big dude. He seems like somebody that maybe Roman could play. I could understand that, at least for like a visual side of things.
Yeah, I think this is a good pairing. I think that your being unaware of Akuma just seems like you probably fell out of playing games, or at least those games, very quickly, because as I mentioned, he's a secret character in X-Men vs. Street Fighter, and I think it'll be a cool pairing. I think the movie probably will suck, but it could be fun.
Yeah, it's, as I say, like, I'm was never a Street Fighter guy. I was like, if I ever played a fighting game, it was typically Tekken, which he does appear in. He does appear in Tekken 7 as a guest character, which is like
he's all over the place.
Crossover. Yeah, well, he's kind of like the one they use, like Street Fighter, if they're going to plot someone in a kind of another fighting game. He's the one they typically turn to. So he's a popular character. I'll say the big elephant in the room. Akuma's Japanese. Roman Reigns is very much not Japanese. So unless he's going to be playing Yokozuna, I don't think that's really going to work out as much. But
the people that did the prosthetics from You Only Live Twice.
Yeah.
Check out a review to Kill, by the way.
To play Japanese.
Yeah. So, but that no one cares about that sort of thing in the grand scheme of things as much as they should do anyway. But so yeah, as a look, as a kind of just a vibe as a character, he's kind of got that thing about him that could attach itself well. And let's say like he's looking to break into movies, then this is the route to go down. He just hope that this is nowhere near as bad as like the previous Street Fighter movie was.
I mean, he at least makes more sense to play based on like the visually to play that character than like Dalsim, or I mean, he's not going to play Cammy.
Well, yeah, I imagine he wouldn't play Ryu or Ken, which are the two main characters. So
like if you were to say cast Roman as a Street Fighter character, and I went through this list, it would be he's going to be more on the Akuma side than even Guile or whatever. But Akuma, like I said, I'm not familiar with the character. I don't know if like the personality traits or anything that Roman could pull off or something. But most of these games, at least from when I had been playing them, Mortal Kombat and stuff, like they didn't have personalities. They were a visual color distinction more than anything else. And it's like, what's the difference between Sub-Zero and Scorpion? Well, one of them is yellow and the other one's blue. One of them has a little thing that he shoots out and pulls you over with the chain. The other one freezes you. That's it. And then eventually they add more to the games and they add more lore and they do all those kind of things. So at this point, Street Fighter is well past the canon and everything that I'm familiar with. But, in an age where like The Miz was rumored heavily to be Johnny Cage and didn't get cast in that role, for them to
I don't know
potentially...
if he was rumored. He pushed for it. I don't know if he was ever...
There was a pretty heavy rumor going around for a while until randomly it was Carl Urban. I still don't understand how that's supposed to work, but I'll be watching that movie. I'm interested in seeing it. If they do a Street Fighter movie, I'm going to watch it. I watched the Mortal Kombat movies. Every one of the Mortal Kombat movies I've seen, even the Chun-Li one, which was a funny watch. If they did another Street Fighter one, sure.
The Chun-Li one? That's Street Fighter.
I said Mortal Kombat. Yeah, I watched that one. I watched that animated one back when I was a kid. It was like
That's very good.
93 or something. I didn't like
good.
it as a kid because it was anime, and I don't like anime. But the future of this movie is pretty unknown right now. Like, I don't have a whole lot of information as far as like any set people cast, and it seems like Noah Centineo might be in it. Jason Momoa might be in it. I don't know who they would necessarily be playing.
But like when I heard that, I thought, okay, so he's got to be up for the same role as Roman, right?
You would think that would be like,
they're
they want
practically identical. Like,
I could see it being that they want Jason Momoa, and if they can't get him, then they'll try to go for Roman because he might be cheaper,
Maybe.
But there hasn't been anything that I've seen while like looking up to see if it's like, and so might be cast as Ryu, or this one's M. Bison, or whatever. I always thought it was funny, by the way, for anybody that's like, on that Street Fighter rabbit hole, the whole Balrog, M. Bison, Vega mix up. You guys know about that?
I'm drawing a blank, but go ahead.
So in America, and it's kind of, I guess, translated over in a lot of places other than, I guess, Japan, the three of them are all different names, because the one that's Vega in America, the Spanish guy with the mask and the little Wolverine claw thing, that's Balrog, not Vega. The one that's M. Bison, that's the big bad guy, that's Vega. And the boxer is M. Bison, because it's supposed to be Mike Tyson. Bison,
yeah,
Mike Bison. And they were like, well, we're going to get fucking sued for that, so let's swap these characters around.
But like that, they're right. But because, would be, okay, you're just doing Tyson. What the fuck?
It's kind of one of those, like, how Pokemon has, like, the, is it Gary? Is it blue? Or is it green?
Yeah.
So, anyway, random Fanboys Anonymous discussion. If you like these kind of discussions and you want more of that kind of stuff, then, show your support for Fanboys Anonymous. Go over to fanboysanonymous.com and let me know. Do a pick your poison or something for us to talk about these things out on the side.
By the way, quick fighting game. Other news, the character Raiden from Fatal Fury is literally just Vader. It's literally just Vader. Like, in the same way that, like,
Darth or Big Van?
They did Saturday Night Slam Masters, it's just Hogan and you're changing the name.
Oh, okay. So not Darth.
No, I meant Vader, like wrestling Vader.
What's the character's name? Let me look it up real quick.
Raiden.
Spelled the same as the Mortal Kombat one?
Yeah.
So Raiden, wrestler from what? Oh, I can see it.
Fatal Fury.
I guess they must have changed the character to Big Bear at some point too. Probably because it would have been like Raiden's a fucking Mortal Kombat character. You can't just steal from 6 things and be like, well, if we merge them together, then 6 people don't sue us. Yeah, it looks like Vader. So
yeah, it just is.
Maybe there's going to be a Tekken movie too, and we can come back around to that, and you can fill me in on those characters, Callum, because I played Tekken like once in my entire life, and that was just like at an arcade at a casino. So that's my familiarity with Tekken. It's not Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. I don't know who these are, but I guess I'll be that guy, that kind of thing.
Well, I haven't played Tekken since I was probably early teens. I imagine was the last Tekken game I played. But I watched a 2-hour long video where someone tries to explain the entire Tekken lore on YouTube, which was great, and it made very little sense. Why is this wooden training dummy sentient now? And it's like that's just one of the characters in it. So it's it is like as a fighting game, I just preferred it to any of the ones that I played. But fighting games are no longer a genre that I pay much attention to.
Never something that I could get super into. It was too like you got to memorize the exact attack patterns, and even like Smash Brothers, like it's fun, but that's more. Smash Brothers is like a Mario Kart thing for me, where I'm like, if I'm with a bunch of people or something, yeah, I'll play that, but I'm not gonna buy the game and try to become good at it or anything. I'll focus my efforts on that I still haven't beaten Overcooked with Caroline. We're getting there.
I would say
we're on the final level. We just can't figure out how to beat the final level in Overcooked 2.
I'd say the last fighting games I ever played with the Injustice series.
Great games.
Apparently, there's going to be an Injustice 3.
That might be worth checking out,
because I need to go back to that world. I love fighting games. I hate playing them with strangers who think that like the point of video games is to, be so good where it's no longer fun and it's all about making money in tournaments.
Again, it's like those people with the Pokemon things or something where it's like that's not feasible in competitive battling, and it's like I got the cute little plant. Oddish's cute little dude.
Like, dude, guys, this used to be fun. Like, all the people that the same sort of people that like have to like maximize IVs and make sure like catch like 50 Pidgeys to make sure they're getting the best one with the best nature and the best thing. It's like, dude, it's a kid's game.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I hate when somebody's talking about Smash Brothers and you're like, no weapons, no, it's about real competitive, and it's like, what the. I want to play fucking Mario versus, the Piranha Plant. Shut the fuck up.
Once you start getting into, well, who do you run? I don't run anybody. I think it's cool when I saw the reaction when they announced Mega Man and the crowd went, "Oh shit!"
Right.
The end. Fucking Pac-Man can fight Kirby. Kick ass. Okay, moving on.
Yeah, it's like I don't care about like optimizing my build in Mario Kart. I just want to, I just want to be Donkey Kong. Just let me be Donkey Kong. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Mario Kart being a great example of like I used to love those games, hate them now because everybody's so like competitive. It's, what the fuck? Just let me enjoy my game.
So on that discussion, check out the Discord. Check out Fanboys Anonymous. Hit it up on that front and. Yeah, would love to tap into some of that stuff and talk more fanboy stuff, but you got to show your support for it and make sure that we get the opportunity to do that stuff. And the best way to show your support is to join the YouTube channel membership or the Patreon. Now, you can do that for Smark Moment. You can do that for fanboys. You can do that for both. That's even better. And there are a couple different tiers for those. So even $1 a month on both tiers is something that I greatly appreciate. $5 and up gives you access to the early content if we do something in advance and then we schedule it for later on. It's also kind of an ad block forgiveness thing. If you're on some kind of ad block thing and you're not, helping us out on that front for the website or for the YouTube channel, and you kind of want maybe feel a little bit bad about it because kind of need it, then that is sort of the opposite of that. The Darkcast tier, of course, that's from that point onward, you get access to the Darkcast episodes. And we're going to have another one of those coming up in, whenever we get an opportunity at the end of May or beginning of June to finish out our heel and face Mount Rushmore that we had done. We did the heels and we did some general talk about the heels and faces and, overall scope, but we still have to finish out the babyface list. So come back around to that in a bit. But the Pick Your Poison tier is the real catch here, and that is the one that you get to be like, okay, you guys just went on a tangent for a while about these fighting games. I want to hear more about that, and I'm going to fund an episode for it. And then we just fly off the rails and we do whatever. Or maybe you want us to get into a Mount Rushmore of that. We've got plenty stuff on the back burner that I'm like, hey, even on the Pokemon stuff, I mentioned it before, that, I got a full-on Yokozuna team. I've got what villains from Superman would be represented in Pokemon form to make a team out of the Superman villains. I got a lot of shit that I think of when I'm trying to go to bed. And, if you want more things like that, a top rope list of our favorite video games of all time or something like that, then, if you want us to watch one of these movies and do a fan announce table, fan tracks, thing like that, let us know. Support it through that. Redbubble and TeePublic is also where you can pick up your merchandise. So if you want some video game based merch, go on over to the Fanboys Anonymous thing. I still have some of those things that they haven't taken down yet. Perpetually, they take them down though. So if you are interested, you got to grab that while you see it. They're always constantly sending me copyright infringement things where it's like, you made 12 cents off of this. We're really hurt. We can't afford it that you have a pun of our fucking thing or something, you know. But we'll see what the Akuma thing is all about when more is announced on that front. And who knows, maybe we'll watch it on this or something. Let's talk about some pay-per-view stuff. And let's talk about the pay-per-view thing that is unrelated to the TV stuff that we're going to break down. So that's TNA Under Siege. That's happening tonight in a couple hours. It starts at 7:30 Eastern. And they've already changed one of the matches that they had announced ahead of time. No longer will there be an international championship match. Steve Macklin is, quote unquote, medically unable to compete at the event. And they're already just pushing it to Impact, I think, for next week. So that's, you know, for some reason they decided, screw it, we don't want to do it there. But they replaced it with... They should
have never announced it because they had announced after the three-way that Cardona won last week, they announced in a vignette, oh yeah, Macklin can't compete. He suffered excessive bleeding and a skull fracture in the dog collar match from the week before.
Is that
so they should never
legitimate?
Probably not.
I'm assuming they can't let him wrestle next week if he has a skull fracture.
Hey, you don't know.
I don't know.
Go fast, pal.
But yeah, they replaced it with an 8-person mixed tag team match. There you go. It's instead of a title match, you're going to get that. It is Indy Hartwell, Trey Miguel, Zachary Wentz, and TBA against Order 4, Tasha Steeles, John Schuyler, Jason Hotch, and Mustafa Ali. I'm, of course, I put this out there for anything when it comes to TNA. I only half pay attention to the pay-per-views, so I am out of the mix when it comes to, like, I couldn't even tell you who John Schuyler and Jason Hotch are. I have no idea who the TBA person could be if they like set anybody up for that. I'm assuming it's a man, since Indy Hartwell and Tasha Steeles balance each other out, and you would assume it'd be 3 men and with 3 men on the other side. But whether that's tossing in somebody from NXT to just be like a surprise, or if that's somebody from the TNA roster, or, you know, a random person that is just being brought in for a one shot, no idea. And I don't have the slightest idea who wins this match.
Well, it's funny that you talk about changes, because here's how that match announcement went down. While Ace Austin is wrestling Mustafa Ali on last night's Impact, they show a little graphic in the corner that says it's that match, but it's Ace Austin, not TBA. Hours beforehand, it was announced that Ace Austin was leaving the company. That his contract expired and he was leaving the company. So they do an injury angle only to, like, an hour after showing the initial graphic, say, actually, Ace Austin's not wrestling. So my pick for TBA, yeah, I can't think of anybody, like, really worth speculating. They're in Canada, but I don't know how much that means. Like, if there's any major surprise they could be. But I would guess the babyfaces should win, because Indy just got there. I don't think she should be losing yet. Like, she literally just got there.
Is this her first match?
It's her second, I believe.
I'd probably go with them then. And if the TBA person's interesting enough, then it's like, there goes all the momentum on that side. The pre-show match is Rosemary against Xia Brookside. Whatever, I don't know what's happening there.
The story is, Xia Brookside, you're too nice. I want you to be dark and spooky. And she says, no, I don't want to be dark and spooky. And by the way, you attacked my friend, Lei Ying Lee, who used to have the same name as me and be Xia Lee.
Where's she? Where's she from now?
Thankfully a place that Mackenzie Mitchell can say well. Anyhow, I think she's probably turning heel on Xia. For some reason, I just see that. Maybe it's because I never got to see what Mei Ying was going to be. So you can do some makeshift version of that TNA.
Well, she wasn't Mei Ying.
Well, she wasn't Mei Ying, but she was under the spell of Mei Ying. And I could see that happening here.
Maybe TBA is Boa.
Oh, we love Boa.
Oh god, what was that other guy that was around at that time? The tall guy.
Ru Fang.
Ru Fang. That sounds like a fucking Street Fighter character or something. Yeah. Masha Slamovich is defending the TNA Knockouts World Title against Alicia Fox. She's not Alicia Fox, but she's Alicia Fox forever. It doesn't matter. Victoria Crawford's not going to win that belt.
Yeah, I can't imagine that.
I don't think that any championships are changing hands, for that matter. I'm assuming Ash by Elegance and Heather by Elegance retain the Knockouts World Tag Titles over Spitfire. I am assuming the Nemeth brothers beat Matt Hardy and Leon Slater, because why would they drop the belts back to the Hardy Boys when one half of the Hardy Boys is not there for travel reasons? Travel reasons being he's not allowed in the country, I think.
Well, I will say, I think there's always a chance they could swap the Knockouts tag titles, and if Spitfire loses, they will break up. But they've done this story before and had them win, so there's a small chance, but there's no chance that the Nemeth brothers are losing those belts.
What's the story with Cody Deaner? If he beats Eddie Edwards, he gets a new TNA contract. Is that like been a thing? Which, by the way, I hate saying the name Cody Deaner. It always sounds like I'm saying something wrong.
Yeah, but if he loses, he's done. And he's been there for a long time, and I can see him losing. You know?
I always just assume whenever there's like gets a new contract thing that person's going to win. But I, again, have zero context when it comes to this. So I defer to you on that.
Yeah, I could see him actually losing here and calling it a day.
Like in general, or like, moving to another, going to
probably
NWA
like
or
in
something.
general, just stay behind the scenes in TNA.
Tessa Blanchard's up against Ariana Grace. She's got Santino in her corner. Blanchard's got Robert Stone in her corner.
What's
Tessa's
so
the one
funny
that
about this
makes more sense, I would assume.
is I was watching Impact last night, and they're doing a debate between Stone and Santino. And I just had this moment where I'm like, in 2012, these are absolutely the two characters who would have been paired up in a WWE TNA crossover, Robbie E. and Santino, except they would have been representing the other side. And I had that moment of like, oh, this is silly that they've just ended up here doing, silly stuff. I assume Blanchard's winning because Ariana Grace never wins anything. But maybe this leads to some kind of mixed tag at some point. So Santino can team with Ariana.
Is he like able to wrestle? Does he wrestle?
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's had a couple matches in TNA.
Huh. Good. I haven't seen any of them, so I'm totally unaware of that. Mike Santana. I don't know why I said it weird. Mike Santana is going to beat AJ Francis, I would assume.
I would hope so.
And that's it, other than the tag match at the main event. So Joe Hendry and Elijah, aka Elias, are up against Frankie Kazarian and Trick Williams. As we mentioned before, when we talked about our NXT Backlash, or not NXT Backlash, I'm doing the thing again where it's the Battleground Backlash thing. God damn. I can't even escape it when we're not even doing the Backlash one anymore. The WWE Battleground pay-per-view point, which go back and check out if you're interested in the full breakdown of our predictions for that. My thought process is exactly the same as it was before. I think that if they plan on doing one thing to lead into the other thing, it all really obviously depends on the TNA World Title match. If the plan is for Joe Hendry to lose that title at Battleground, then maybe they do some kind of an injury angle and he either loses the tag team match and then loses that twice in a row, or they win the tag team match, but Trick and Frankie Kazarian beat him up afterward or something. it could just be as simple as Trick and Kazarian win to try to make people think, oh man, look at that, Trick pinned Hendry, and then Hendry retains at Battleground, and that's what I'm kind of leaning towards. But I mean, it's a pattern in pro wrestling to do stuff like that, and Joe Hendry got the upper hand on NXT. Maybe you balance it out. Trick and Frankie win the tag match, and then Hendry wins the third time around and retains the title.
I'm going to go with Joe Hendry and Elijah win here. Somebody's pinning Frankie Kazarian. And then, as I've said several times now, Trick Williams wins the title at Battleground, loses it at Slammiversary.
All in all, as a non-watcher of the TNA thing in some ways and not planning on watching Battleground and stuff, any thoughts that you have on this, Callum? Any predictions you want to toss out, or your favorite Cody Deaner moments if he doesn't have a contract or something?
Sorry, I zoned out. What were you saying? Sorry, I just zoned out for a full 15 minutes. Like, it was like as soon as you said the words TNA, I just this doesn't involve me.
To be fair, that's kind of what my brain did too.
Yeah.
Autopilot.
I co-sign what Rob says.
Thank you.
Only time you'll hear me say that.
So let's go over to some TV talk now and kind of bounce around on those different platforms. Last week's SmackDown, talk about this week's SmackDown kind of, by proxy. The results from last week, anything that really feels like it needs to be broken down, it's pretty much stuff that we can talk in the future, I think. It's like who qualified for Money in the Bank, and Tiffany Stratton retained the title over Nia Jax, whatever. But the continuation of some of those stories, Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair had a backstage segment, and it didn't really lead anywhere, but they did end up announcing that Giulia is on the SmackDown roster. And later on Monday Night Raw, they would announce that Roxanne Perez is officially on the Raw roster. So that was
finally. Oh my God.
Hot tag that's been long in the waiting. And we finally can come back around to saying, okay, the things that we thought were going to happen are happening. It's just that they split the team up. So you don't bring Cora up. You bring Giulia up with Roxanne. They tag for a couple weeks. Then Giulia goes to a different show. At least they're on the main roster. That's cool. And Giulia has an opportunity tonight. She's going to go up against Zelina Vega and Charlotte as one of the triple threat Money in the Bank qualifiers. So I'm actually thinking that Giulia was going to win that one. I think that Bliss is going to come out and do something that's going to either intentionally cost Flair, or she's going to be involved to maybe try to help with Flair, and Flair's going to be like, I don't want your help. And then she's going to, get rolled up or something along those lines.
Well, earmuffs, kiddos that don't want spoilers, but Sean reported while we were doing that last segment that the Wyatt Six are in town for SmackDown. So they will be coming back. I would hope it's to work with Bliss, since the whole argument was like, they were planning to work with Bliss forever ago. But I guess we'll see.
Who do you think's winning the qualifier tonight?
Putting Giulia and Charlotte in the same qualifier is crazy to me, because I feel like Giulia should advance, but Charlotte's never won Money in the Bank, and I can see her being a good option for this year's. So I'll say Charlotte, but if she loses, then I think Giulia could stand a good chance of winning the whole thing too.
There's that, and there's the Aleister Black, LA Knight, and Shinsuke Nakamura qualifier.
I wonder who's winning.
Nakamura comes out, he's like, I'm upset with Aleister Black and all that, so they could have a feud coming out of this, and I'm assuming that means that Nakamura takes the pin from Black, and JC Mateo probably gets involved, and it distracts LA Knight in the process.
Boo, what a dumb name, boo.
Yeah, I got confirmation of that last week too, yeah, after the hot tag. Yeah,
I don't like that they just have Shinsuke show up and be like, I'm mad at LA Knight and I'm mad at Aleister Black. Okay. Sure, I guess they just need you to lose a match, pal.
Yeah, that's what he's here for.
It's quite interesting that they've put like Aleister Black and LA Knight in the same qualifier. I would have thought like they put both of them in the match.
Mm-hmm.
Realistically,
Well, they did that with Bliss and Green too.
Yeah, like they're strangely doing the Money in the Bank qualifiers this year, where they're splitting it up in a weird way too. Like they did the 2 out of the 3 women's qualifiers on Raw, and then they're like, yeah, by the way, the men's is going to come around next week, and then I'm assuming they get 2 of the men's, and then probably the week of Money in the Bank they're going to do the 1 remaining woman and the 1 remaining man. But like, I didn't anticipate that Green wouldn't be in the match. I thought that having Rey Fenix, Solo Sikoa, and Jimmy Uso was kind of interesting too, because it's like, at least with Phoenix, you kind of assume he's probably going to be on the AAA card, and that's why he didn't win. But at first it was like, okay, well, if it wasn't for that, you would assume Phoenix would be in there. And we don't know what's happening for the men on Raw. They haven't even announced a single person that's up for the qualifying thing, except for they've alluded to Chad Gable getting into one of those triple threat matches. But that's really like throwing me off. Jade Cargill's probably going to be in the other women's match, but they didn't say who for her. So that's like, all right, well, you can't have her and Naomi. You can't have her and Charlotte and Giulia. I wonder where they're going. What about you, Cal? Do you think that anybody particular with the 2 qualifying matches tonight?
Well, I was surprised they went with Alexa Bliss because it seemed like she was building something with Charlotte, but seemingly it's as if they are continuing to do that, and so if Alexa's in the match, you'd assume that Charlotte's going in the match as well. And they'll probably go with Aleister Black to play the hot hand in the men's one. And yeah, I'd say that like the alternatives would be to put Giulia and LA Knight in it. There's obviously no chance that Shinsuke's going into the match. And I can't even remember the other woman that you said, so it's almost certainly
Zelina Vega, dude. Zelina Vega, the WWE United States champion.
Oh right, her. Yeah, she's not going in the match either. So that's fine, because then you can probably spiral off into a Giulia feud with Zelina Vega for the US title by having her cost Giulia the match or something.
I actually think she's going to be in a big deal at SummerSlam. For some reason,
what type of match is that?
Well, for some reason, I see her being paired with Cardi B and maybe doing something at SummerSlam.
Maybe losing the title to Giulia or something.
Maybe.
Another match that's happening tonight is Fraxium against the Street Profits for the tag titles. I don't think that the belts are going to change hands, but stranger things have happened.
I think they should. I think fuck it, just switch them quick. Keep switching those tag titles quick. You know, get a healthy rotation of teams going and make people care about these people.
Yeah, I mean they've just run the gauntlet of beating basically every team on SmackDown already. So yeah, might as well make them champions now.
I wouldn't be opposed to it. I'd be down for it. Let's backtrack to Monday Night Raw. The big story coming out of Raw, Zoey Stark. So in another qualifying match was Roxanne Perez, Becky Lynch, and Natalya in the first one, which not surprising at all. Natalya ends up losing that, and Roxanne moves on, and she gets into there. Becky Lynch gets, kind of distracted, throwing Lyra Valkyria. Second match comes around, and it's Rhea Ripley, Kairi Sane returning, which Kairi Sane seems like she's feeling good. It seems like she's, looking great when it comes to, not being like ring rust and everything like that too. And Zoey Stark was the third in that. And during the match, she goes for a missile drop kick, and immediately everybody's just like, yep, that's a fucking long process of an injury. I don't know what she injured necessarily as far as like, it's a MCL, ACL, UCLA, whatever. I don't know any of those terms anyway. I know.
That's college.
Yeah, it's the same thing. But, it was immediately apparent that that's a bad injury. And she couldn't even limp back to the medical staff. Like, they had to pick her up. So they had to finish the match differently. And I assumed that Stark was going to take the pin. But Kairi had to just by default because it needed to turn into a singles match. So that sucks for Kairi. But it sucks, obviously, way more for Zoey Stark. And there's no indication at all right now of when or if Zoey is going to be able to come back. Was that the same one that she had injured before, or was that a different one? You don't know off the top of your head?
I'm not sure, but I think it could be the same. I think it could be the same knee.
And we've seen instances like this in the past. Like, look at Tegan Nox, where, like, you get an injury and then that's, you're more prone to getting injured in that same spot, or you're prone to getting injured in the opposite because you're compensating for that or something. It sucks no matter what, could have been done better, could have been landed differently, whatever it might be. That sucks for Zoey in so many ways. This is a fucking bad year for Zoey Stark. You start off the year and it's like...
That was what broke my heart, was like, this is her first match back and she's doing her entrance during the commercial break. And Michael Cole's talking about how, she's excited to, get back on the right track. She's had a couple of setbacks. Obviously, the firing of her two stablemates. And then she just gets injured, and it's a gnarly injury, and you're just like, shit. That's absolutely not fair.
It's one of those situations, which is almost always the case, where it's like such an innocuous move causes the biggest injuries, like just doing like some kind of drop kick, just completely destroys her knee, and so they have to immediately go to commercial and to carry on from there. So yeah, I mean, she's just having had a rough time overall, like losing her faction. Like I saw the clip going around of, but in the prelude to it, where they do like those shots of them backstage getting ready for the match, and just showed Zoey Stark and just like silence in the crowd. Then Rhea Ripley shows up and the whole arena almost explodes. It's like, yeah,
poor thing.
That's not a indictment on her per se, as it is like just the booking and presentation. But yeah, this is an opportunity for her to hopefully reset, get better. But yeah, it's just another one of these serious leg injuries that's plaguing the women's division in the last few years.
I still maintain there's got to be something with the way that they're training them, or there's got to be something with like I don't know, something in the water or whatever. Like there's something going on. It just keeps happening, and they got to start switching it up and be like, don't do these moves unless you prove that you can do that very, very safely or something. I don't know. That sucks. And hopefully she gets, all the treatment that she needs. And hopefully she's back and better than ever as soon as possible. It wouldn't be shocking to me if we find out that eventually that's like a career ender type of thing. Even if it's not like a, definitive, like, we know what the injury is and you will not wrestle again type of thing. But it could be like, well, that now it's a long recovery and then, maybe they release her, or, I could see it going down that kind of path. And I hope that that's not the case, because Zoey is somebody that was like, for a little while there, was like, man, if they had a mid-card title, Zoey could win that. And then they have the mid-card championships, and it's like, well, Zoey could win that. And then she didn't. And yeah, they missed the opportunity, I think, with her a little bit. So, the other stuff on Raw, mostly inconsequential stuff, setting up like Saturday night's main event and all, like Logan Paul and Gunther having a little segment or whatever. Seems like Roxanne might potentially join the Judgment Day. She gave some chicken nuggets to Dom. She gave some apples to Carlito. So that's all you need to do. And
first of all, I thought the apple thing was hilarious, just because it's like, I got you something too, Carlito. But the funny thing to me is the reaction from people on the internet being like, Dom can't keep getting away with this. They can't keep pairing him with these women.
Did you see the Stephanie McMahon thing?
Oh, but where he said that he would only trade his wife in for an In-N-Out burger? Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't see that.
Was funny.
I didn't see that. That's funny, though. Stephanie on her show, I guess it was her show. I don't know. I didn't really pay too much attention.
Yeah,
but,
it's her show.
Was asking, like, what's up with the chicken tenders? And they kind of were breaking down that, like, he likes Wingstop and he likes Raising Cane's. Which I still haven't tried either of those. I gotta try that at some point. And they were, like, doing the whole, like, do you bring your own ranch and blah, blah, blah. And just like the way that the conversation was going, and like she starts talking about how she makes her own chicken tenders, and he's like, "Oh, what do you do?" and whatever. And the top comment that I saw on TikTok for it was like, "Oh no, he's moving on to Stephanie. Somebody's got to stop this man. This man's messing up Stephanie McMahon and getting some chicken tenders for her." And like, yeah, he's unstoppable at this point. He's gonna go from Rhea to Liv to Roxanne, and immediately afterwards, Stephanie. Triple H is gonna fire this guy. Like.
I think it's funny. I think it's one of the funniest things they have going, and it's connecting with people. Like he's going to be one of the defining stars of this like era for however long it lasts.
Crazy to think that when you go back to like the beginning of him being brought in and the eye for an eye stuff and all, like nobody was feeling dumb. And credit to that dude, he figured it out and he's fucking great. Still waiting for Finn Balor to leave the group.
That doesn't look like it's happening after what I saw on Raw.
Insane. Anything else from Raw? I don't think so, right? Sheamus beat Waller. Rusev's going to beat Tozawa next week. Yeah, nothing else really from Raw. NXT, we mostly talked about a lot of that stuff on the Battleground predictions. So we broke down everything from what the fuck is going on with this Shawn Legacy beats Adonis to prove that he could beat Evans, who fights with Ricky Saints and Ethan Page, so that Page and Saints could have a match that's not on the pay-per-view thing. Yeah, go back and check out the Battleground stuff. I almost said Backlash again. Check that out for more discussion about that and OTM and Chase U and so on and so forth. Really nothing else I think that we need to break down on like the hot tags specifically from that front. It's essentially all wrapped up in there. And then on Dynamite, is there more?
Well, real quick, shout out to Brinley Reese. I guess she suffered a shoulder injury. She just got surgery. Hopefully she's back soon.
So she was written out of TV on Evolve last week. And I just assumed that was like a random angle, but they also did an angle that they wrote out Danny Palmer, who was released. So somebody is attacking people at Evolve. And
oh god, Nikita Lyons must be...
Maybe it is.
Wait, no, Nikita was the one who got attacked, right? It was Blair who's released, so I guess it can't be her.
Well, Lyons attacked. Was it Rizzo? I think.
Yeah, that's right. She did attack Rizzo. Yeah.
Rizzo, who is MIA, but will probably pop up on Sunday. A little bit of Evolve news on, I guess, the championship front. We know who is going to be in most of the setup for the matches there. It's not something we're super heavily dedicated to, but at least on the women's front, Kylie Ray had gotten the play-in. They're using the term play-in for that as like, number one contenders kind of get into the match setup. And the other four were Wendy Chu, Kendall Gray, and Kelly Armstrong. So they're going to have that match next week. And Kiana Carver beat Harlem Lewis. Idris Enofe is in that match as well. And there's going to be another play-in match with Jordan Oasis, Jackson Drake, and Lindsay Dorado. So one of those three, Enofe, Carver, and Legacy, are going to be for the men's. I don't know much about like Jackson Drake and Jordan Oasis and all that stuff, but it'd be kind of interesting if they go with like Dorado after all that time, or kind of interesting if they go with Legacy. Seems good and all that, but good for Idris Enofe for getting another little push. Anyway, check out Evolve if you're interested in that. It's a quick watch, especially because you can skip through things you don't like. But again, it's one of those things that I'm like, I wouldn't watch it if I didn't have that as my job. On the Dynamite side of things, switching over to AEW for the rest of this podcast, I think. We already talked about a good portion of the Double or Nothing card, but there have been some changes because we did that before this episode of Dynamite aired and before Collision aired as well. So the revelation that Paige and Ospreay are going to be the main event was pretty surprising to me. I just assumed that was going to be Anarchy in the Arena.
Yeah, I thought that the promo they had was tremendous. I'm not going to say it was one of the best promos I've ever seen because I feel like that's a bit hyperbole, but it was the perfect promo for this segment. And I saw a lot of people like really almost angrily like, well, the ratings say otherwise. And it's like kind of like Tony was talking about earlier, where people like to act like they're business strategists just because they like a product. Shut the fuck up. It was a great promo, and it did more to sell this pay-per-view for me than a lot of other things. And these two guys are great, and they deserve to main event a pay-per-view because it's probably the two top single stars in the company outside of Mox. You know, I thought this was tremendous.
I will say I wrote it off at the beginning of it and didn't pay attention until midway through because I was cleaning up for dinner at the time. And Caroline's like, I can take over. You need to watch this. And I was like, I don't need to watch it. So Ospreay's going to say bruv, and Paige is going to say, I need this. And then like 10 seconds later, it was like, well, something bruv. And about 10 seconds later, whatever, I shut off the faucet, and then Paige is like, because I need this. And I'm like, see, it's the same thing. Every promo is the fucking same from every single person, you know. But the rest of it that I did see, yeah, I liked how passionate they were.
Yeah, it was an excellent segment in terms of establishing the two different perspectives going into the match, because Ospreay is very much like, they're both focused on winning the title, that's the big goal, but the idea that Ospreay wants to do it because he wants to bring it back to the UK for Forbidden Door, he wants to make sure that it's not hidden away in the way that Mox has done it right now. Paige, it's all about the redemption, it's casting aside the last 2 years where he's just been fully focused on revenge and anger and hatred towards Swerve and moving forward, and he needs this title to cement that change in direction. So yeah, they both gave their incentives, and they both feel like, oh, this is a huge match for both of them, and yeah, just continues to add to the idea of either of them can win it. Obviously still leaning towards Ospreay, but either of them can win it, and it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I'm still leaning towards Ospreay too, but like you said, I believe a little bit more now that Paige could win, and that's kind of the goal of the whole thing. They had their All-Star Trios match. I thought it was funny. Shout out to, I forget who it was on, I think it was Cage Side Seats. They had put out a thing being like, when Tony Khan doesn't have a special announcement, then he throws in an All-Stars match. And I'm like, yeah, it's pretty true.
These All-Star Trios matches, or these Trios matches they're putting on every single week, they're the most reliable TV wrestling in the world right now. It's just great. They just throw 6 guys together. They had like 2 Trios matches on Collision as well, and it's like, yeah, this is what you want to see. Just loads of guys doing the PWG style wrestling. It's just, or what you need to have at least one of these on every single show.
Well,
And I think that's what people wanted from the company. I think that's the way to go.
So Katsuyori Shibata came back during that, and then we eventually we have the setup now for what Anarchy in the Arena is, and we were confused about how they would do 5-on-5, 6-on-6, 7-on-8, 12-on-4, you know, whatever the hell that setup could be. It is Kenny Omega, Swerve Strickland, Willow Nightingale, Samoa Joe, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Katsuyori Shibata against the Young Bucks, Jon Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, Marina Shafir, and Wheeler Yuta. So that makes perfect sense. The only question is, what's going on with Gabe Kidd? Gabe Kidd. That's a different person.
My guess is Gabe Kidd was brought on TV because he's going to be a part of Forbidden Door. He could be a part of Blood and Guts on the road to Forbidden Door. And I imagine he's going to be here anyway. He's just not going to be in the match per se. He won't be a participant, but he'll get involved.
I think he's going to get involved, and then I think that leads to Hook coming back and offsetting him.
See, I'm still firmly in the camp that I think Hook is joining the Death Riders at some point. So yeah, I'm not certain about that. I believe, and I'd say I'm not following New Japan as closely as I have been in the past, but I think that he's got a big match coming up soon against. I'm trying to remember who it is. I think it's a title match. It might be Yota Tsuji, or I don't know if they've done that recently. So just let me check the schedule quickly to see what they've got coming up.
Is it like a pay-per-view coming up for New Japan, or is it just like, you know, a random show?
Oh, so there's Dominion, so their second biggest show of the year is coming up soon. So at Dominion, he is fighting. Yeah, he's fighting Yota Tsuji for the IWGP Global Heavyweight Championship. So basically their secondary title, their version of the Intercontinental title. So it wouldn't shock me if Gay Kid does get involved. They just like have a surprise appearance from Yota Tsuji to help like sell that match a little bit more. As like Yota Tsuji's pretty much without. They still have a clan right now, but like with both Bushi and Naito leaving New Japan, it's basically LIJ's pretty much, if not dead already, on death's door. So
yeah, I'm of the opinion that Gabe Kidd just wants to fight Samojo at Forbidden Door, and I think that's where this is going.
I think they're going for the Omega rematch, but
that is possible.
Is Forbidden Door? Forbidden Door is
before
All In, right?
No, it's after All In. No, it's in August this year because they moved All In to July.
Okay, then maybe they can do whatever. Like Kenny defends what should then be the AEW Intercontinental Championship against Gabe Kidd.
Yeah, that's the kind of route that I was saying for it. But yeah, let's say there's no like certainties one or the other. The only thing we know almost certain, should I say, is that Gabe Kidd will be part of it. I think by the time Gabe Kidd do the Forbidden Door, because Forbidden Door will probably be right at the back end, if not, like the G1 will be finished by that point. So I think there's a good chance that Gabe Kidd wins the G1. So
who's the champion in New Japan right now? Is it still Zack Sabre Jr.?
It's Goto. He won it months ago.
Goes to show how much I pay attention to that.
And I think it's going to be Goto Ospreay champ versus champ at Forbidden Door.
That'd be an interesting one.
I still don't think that Ospreay's winning that belt, but you know, I've been wrong about plenty of things, including that Zack Sabre Jr. is still a champion. So. Yeah.
I think there's a good chance that, we'll get to it. We don't need to preview Forbidden Door, but I think there's a good chance they'll do Zack Sabre Jr. versus Goto at Forbidden Door because it's in the UK, and that's when you'll have Zack Sabre Jr. win the title back.
Even though that's not an AEW versus New Japan.
Well, the main event of the last Forbidden Door was Swerve versus Will Ospreay, so for the AEW World Championship. So it doesn't have to be.
I hate living in a world where we have things like that, and we have things like Night of Champions, where it's not all just championship matches, and Extreme Rules, where it's not all Extreme Rules matches.
Forbidden Door doesn't necessarily say it's AEW versus New Japan. It's just AEW x New Japan. So
true.
Which means that both shows are participating.
They should switch the X to a VS. What else happened on here that we need to come back around to? So, here's something I'm going to complain about. MJF and the Hurt Syndicate. MJF comes out there. They go, wow, we're going to set up this thing about this contract or whatever. Okay, let's dawdle. Let's have a promo that for some reason MVP was interrupting MJF and really wanted to be mad at the crowd and try to rile them up and stuff. It wasn't seemingly working from my end, at least. And they dawdle and they dawdle and they dawdle, and then they sign it. And then the Sons of Texas come out, and Dustin Rhodes cuts a promo that I don't understand why there was a 50-50 split of this about people being like, this is a fucking great promo. I thought it was awful. He stumbles over his words. He repeats himself a bunch of times. He's like, I have heart and I have determination and heart and whatever and heart. It's like, okay, we know the general gist of where you're going, but this this was not it was just an off night for somebody as great as Dustin Rhodes, and it did nothing to sell me on the match at the pay-per-view. And this MJF and Hurt Syndicate thing was just like, we're all building up to, and he signs, and moving on.
Yeah, I guess I'm not going to sit here and say, well, I'm mad they didn't give me Cedric, because that was people booking that in their brains. But it did feel like they were teasing something else, because at first MVP's like, we're getting a fourth member, and he kept like,
Yeah,
he wouldn't say Max. And they even had the lawyers work up the contract off screen, it seems. Like, I still think there's more to it. It could be as simple as, well, Herd Syndicate thinks they're using him, but he's using them. Maybe we'll get around to it. But the Sons of Texas thing, I don't know why they feel like now is the time. I kind of feel like it's just because Dustin's going to be a big deal at All In. I also think maybe they feel like Sammy Guevara should be on this show, since it's the 6th-year anniversary of AEW, and he has kind of fallen off a bit. But I don't know. Not the strongest segment, but I guess I'm glad they tried to do something with the tag title match, because I'm not liking the direction of the tag division in AEW.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of this one, but that's because, for the most part, the contract signing segments in wrestling in general suck. So, like, that didn't help it. It did feel a bit stally. Wasn't a huge fan of the Dustin promo afterwards. And to be fair, yeah, it did nothing to sell on the tag title match, but realistically, nothing can, because it's such a foregone conclusion who's winning that there's really nothing they could do other than, Dustin Rhodes showing up with a gun shooting Lashley in the leg, and then even at that point, I'm probably thinking, yeah, they're probably still going to lose, right? So I don't think there was much they could have done to convince you otherwise. But yeah, I mean,
he should borrow the gun from Big Show.
Yeah,
that's an old school joke.
Yeah. Or on Anderson, get his Glock and bring. But at the end of the day, we know that they're running with this MJF being part of the Hurt Syndicate, so they are going to just continue this for a while. I know everyone is or a lot of people are just trying to see what's the actual story here, or where's it actually going. I think it's one of those ones that if you don't like it, you're more than welcome not to. But it's more of a case of, for me, I'm just going to see how it plays out, really, because they might have something big in mind. Just have to wait and see with this one. They're not gonna rush it, at least not for now.
Let's see what else to talk about here. We got a lot of other stuff is like, self-explanatory. Mercedes Moné and Jamie Hayter are like, I'm gonna win. No, I'm gonna win. Fuck you, etc. That's basically what it is. Anything else. Same as WWE. It's like you watch half the show and it's like, all right, I'm gonna beat you if you win at that match. Okay. Collision had a couple of different things, a couple of different announcements of some additions to the card and all. Paragon is going to go up against the Don Callis family. So you got Kyle O'Reilly, Roderick Strong, and Adam Cole against Konosuke Takeshita, Kyle Fletcher, and Josh Alexander, which I assume is going to end with Don Callis family winning. So that way one of those people can be like the next in line to fight Adam Cole for the TNT title.
Yeah, two things like this. Fletcher. Yeah, I imagine Don Callis will win, and Fletcher will get the pin on one of the two tag team guys. But I'm obviously one thing. It's a trios match. You need to have a trios match on every single show, so that this show's big trios match. And secondly, grizzled young veterans suck, really bad.
Yeah, what happened there?
That match was awful. With you can't have it. Well, I say awful. It wasn't terrible, but it's not good. And how can you not have a good tag team match with Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong? These guys, I don't want to say they're washed, but they need to step it up again, because they just don't seem to be on it at all at the moment.
Yeah, it's always unfortunate when you see a really good act either have an off night or just like you start to see that that's kind of their level. It's kind of like Kenta, where I want Kenta to be old Kenta, and he isn't. But yeah, I don't know what that match was.
There was an addition to the card of Megan Bain and Penelope Ford are going to go up against Anna Jay and Harley Cameron. That's going to be on the pre-show, the buy-in, which, man, frustrating as all hell when it comes to trying to figure out when that was going to be the case, because apparently Smark at Moment's the only one that fucking knows how to tell time on the internet. You Google it, it was like buy-in starts at 7 o'clock, and by 7 we mean 8, and by 8 we mean 5 p.m. PT, and by 5 p.m. PT we mean 5:30 is what that's scheduled on YouTube, but by 5:30 we mean 6:30. It's 6:30. That's PT. Now I'm getting mixed up. 6:30 ET PM is the buy-in time. Starts on YouTube. It'll be a half hour of that discussion, and then an hour from 7 to 8 of the matches, which right now it's still just the one match. So it's not a 2.5 hour thing that they need to fill. And somebody out there needs to invest in a clock. But I'm assuming Bane and Ford win just because it's Bane.
I think they might have Anna Jay and Holly Cameron win because you got Penelope Ford there to be pinned.
Yeah, so it's definitely an option.
Doesn't hurt Bane at all. But yeah, this is just, they've been building this for several weeks. It's a kind of a perfect match to do on the buy-in. I imagine that this will lead into one of the recurringly famous women's hardcore tag team matches they do on AEW from time to time. There's usually at least one per year where they just do a big street fight style tag match, and it's surprisingly almost always one of the best television matches of the year. So it'd be fun if they decide to do it for this one as well. Anna Jay's been in quite a few of them, so that'd be a good route to take it.
I agree, and people love Harley Cameron, and I think it will be a nice boost to the crowd to see her win a match.
There was also an addition of the match that we kind of assumed was going to be happening with the Continental Championship. It's official that Kazuchika Okada is going to go up against Speedball Mike Bailey. So, reiterating what we said before, Okada retains.
Yep, should be a fun match, but yeah, Okada's retaining, obviously.
I've noticed
got a match with Omega to settle, so.
I've noticed that he's changed the hair. I typically like when Okada is just standard Rainmaker, blonde hair. I don't know how much the dark hair will change the character. I know when he had the red hair for a while, he loved balloons. That was I enjoyed that era of Okada. But we got a match to sell with Kenny Omega, and I can't believe they did the fucking thing where they made us wait like 8 months for it, but they did it, and we're right around the corner. So let's hope everybody stays healthy. This is a banger of a match. And we get to Omega Okada in Texas.
Admittedly, I think that Kenny Omega's guts made them wait that long for the.
No, I mean from when he came back. I mean from when he came back in December to this moment.
They can't just do the big matches immediately. You have to build them sometimes, or you have to wait for a big show to do it. It's fine. We're all fine. Omega's fine, Okada's fine. They're going to wrestle it all in, and we're all going to
Omega's entering Anarchy in the Arena. He better be fine.
Well, that is the breakdown that I've got for the hot tags. And, of course, we have plenty of other stuff coming your way this weekend. We are going to be doing the post-show immediately following Saturday night's main event. Well, I will be on the show, because I'm assuming that it's just going to be me. So I'll do coverage of that on Saturday night from 8 to 10 on all the different platforms, smarkatmoment.com, of course. I'll have stuff on EWN. I'll have stuff up on the Ring Report. I'll carry everything over as well when it comes to the stuff with the Double or Nothing and the Battleground. I almost said Backlash again. The combo post show that'll happen on Sunday night. And the TNA stuff, I'll have that up on EWN and Ring Report. I'm not putting that up on Smark at Moment, but that'll be covered tonight as well. So I got a lot of that stuff I'm going to be watching. I'm going to be completely burned out of pro wrestling at the end of this weekend, just the same as it usually is. But If you want to hang out, show me some support and stuff, do that on those different platforms. If you want to show your support on the other different things we mentioned on this marketplace, go ahead and do that. And make sure that you're checking out the Fanboys Anonymous stuff. Make sure that you are checking out the Linktree things over at amangotree.com and just follow those different accounts and subscribe on those fronts and check out what Rob and Callum are up to as well.
Yep, you can check out my work on Fightful, and you can check me out everywhere on social media at Dude Felice, and check out what Callum has going on.
You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Wigmeister14. Check out the Power Rankings every Saturday on smarkatmoment.com, where I rank the WWE superstars based on their previous week's performances. And then while you're there, or you can head on over to www.fantasyleague.com, you can find the Fantasy League, where all of our teams are picking up points as the weeks progress. We're only on the second week right now, but there'll be a lot more to come. Obviously, Saturday night's main event and takeover will have some big points associated with that as well. So check along to see how the teams are doing at this very early stage as we continue for the remainder of the year going forward.
WWE NXT TakeOver Backlash. It's happening. It's happening in the state of New Orleans. We are going to be back around with all those stuff, and of course next week more content, more hot tags, and everything else. So show your support, hit the like button, subscribe, ring the notification bell, and we will see you tomorrow, everyone. Adios for now, though. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we are being counted out.